In our previous meetings, we have discussed a framework for bullying along with some of its features. We've talked about the characteristics, the forms, and the effects of bullying. Let us remember that bullying typically involves repeated actions and an imbalance of power to do intentional harm to someone. And let us remember that bullying is often focused on aspects of identity, such as race, gender, class, language, and others that you see on the slide. We also have talked about the forms that bullying can take. That bullying can be written or verbal, physical, electronic, or any combination of the above. We have seen that the effects of bullying can include physical or emotional personal harm, that bullying typically creates a reasonable fear of harm, can also sometimes involve a damage to property. In the workplace especially, it results in the creation of a hostile environment. And in addition to a disruption of an orderly environment, it infringes on the rights of individuals or groups. Thank you. Next slide. We've also talked about the actors that are involved in bullying. And we've seen that in addition to an imbalance of power or features of identity, that bullying often involves people that play certain special, specific roles. And in previous sessions, Joe has helped us to understand the roles that aggressors, targets, and bystanders play in incidents of bullying. In our most recent meeting, we began to examine various responses to bullying, and we focused on superhero therapy. In today's meeting, we will continue to examine responses to bullying. We will focus on healing versus punishment approaches. We will also focus on a community versus an individual approach to bullying. And we will begin to think about prevention more than intervention. What we will examine today is based on two underlying principles. We will examine specifically a restorative justice approach and a peace pledge approach. And while these are separate individual approaches, they do share some common elements, which we will later point out. First, let's examine an approach that we will call restorative. This approach is often referred to by the term restorative justice because of its common use in the judicial system, at least in our country. It's very popular in our juvenile justice system, which means working with adolescents. Its roots are derived from philosophy which is shared by many indigenous communities across the globe. And it is very community-oriented, based on beliefs about the potential of humanity in community. So the focus is not merely on restorative approaches, rely on three basic principles. First, there is a focus on the power of relationships to heal harm. Restorative approaches also feature the need for the empowerment of all persons or stakeholders in a community. And restorative approaches rely on the power and the efficacy of collaboration in problem solving. Therefore, we see that a restorative approach would view bullying as a relational harm to the community not only to specific individuals. And in acting our approach to bullying, we would therefore allow all relevant participants to share their stories in an open and equitable manner. So you can see that all participants would be involved in open discussion and would give voice to their feelings. And so as we enact a restorative approach, we would encourage collaboration and shared decision-making regarding how to address a harm. And the phrase that we often use is, how can we make this right? Not just for the individuals involved, but for the entire community. So when used with children, a restorative approach actually tends to improve relationships, improve sense of empathy, and nurture better and more responsible decision making. And there is quite a bit of research which supports that. A restorative approach has been moderately effective, has been found to be in various studies, moderately effective in reducing school discipline problems and improving school culture and climate, which is another way of saying the fostering and improving a sense of community. And for these reasons, many schools have adopted a restorative approach. And that is specifically because a restorative approach has been related to helping students, young people, to develop the various areas in social emotional learning which are promoted by the CASEL model. Some of you might remember that we have discussed the CASEL approach to social emotional learning, but for others of you who may not be familiar with that, we can provide links and references to previous presentations on that. And now I believe that Joe will take over and speak a little bit about the approach called Peace Pledge.
Restorative model is highly effective and has been used in many circumstances. We encourage you to consider how you can apply the general concepts to your specific work. And we also want to share with you some specific examples of how different communities have addressed bullying. These are some ways that communities have tailored approaches to fit their specific needs. Both are from the United States, and they both are from school-based settings. So we invite you to consider which aspects apply to your context and which ones are not a good fit. The first example is the Peace Pledge. And this comes from a school in the state of Minnesota in the United States. And Minnesota is considered to be part of the region that we call the Midwest. The town of Minnetonka is a small community. In the 1990s, this small community had a significant problem with rifts or divisions within its people. And so the school system had a series of trainings for the entire school community on how to rebuild a sense of community. Because of these conversations, a group of 10 and 11-year-old children helped create what became known as the Peace Pledge. And every day, the students and the classes would recite this Peace Pledge, something that they created and helped write. And in addition, every week, the school provided information on bullying similar to that which we are sharing with you. This is what the 10 and 11-year-old children wrote. And because they wrote it, they were invested in saying it every day. And if you think about all of the concepts we've discussed so far, many of them are present in what these kids wrote. To me, the first two lines speak to the helpful role that a bystander can play. People who are peacemakers and treat everyone with respect, they are defenders of the target. The very last line speaks to a sense of empowerment. And we know that bullying thrives when there is a power imbalance and a sense of disempowerment in people. And we've talked a lot about the importance of fostering connection between people, acknowledging earth, water, plants, animals, and this very big world is an acknowledgement of connection. So I think this is a very powerful example of how the concepts we have been discussing can be applied to a specific community. And if 10-year-old children can do this, what can a group of adults do? And here are the reactions of some of the students who were in these classes. I'd like to make a connection here to the superhero therapy we discussed last time. One of the recommendations we made last time was to consider superheroes being more than just comic book or movie superheroes. And here we have young children from a small town in the United States talking about the inspiration of people like Gandhi and Malala. So for these children, there is no difference between Superman and a leader from India and a woman from Afghanistan. So if you do apply the superhero therapy techniques, please keep this example in mind. And here is a art project that the children from this class made together. And Natalia, I don't know if you just acknowledged this, but I'd like to point out that the sign reads, "What does peace look like to you?" And so at first, the students were taught about the concepts of bullying. Then they did a community building project, the Peace Pledge.